Well, good evening, race fans, and welcome to Sardegna for the Road B circuit configuration here for the Aero League Racing Season 9 Tier 1 Championship week of racing, weekend setup. We have a sprint race coming up after a 10-minute qualifying session, followed by a 40-minute race as usual. My name is Webbo, here to take you through and join you for the evening's racing, and I can talk you through the current standings as we find ourselves. This is at the end of tonight's racing. It will mark our halfway point in our 9th season, and the cars are already heading out on track, as you can see. Get myself organised and get the screen on. It doesn't matter how many times I set it up, it never sticks. So we'll go up to the top then, and the foremost car, which is Mackie's Gherkin right now. Let's take a look then at the standings as we find them after round 3, after the 6th race, round 3. Viking Dog is in the lead with all podiums. Oh no, actually, excuse me, we have got a problem with the standings. They are not the latest ones on my screen, so I will revisit 1 second for you. There we go. So we have a very close battle at the top of the order, and that is Viking Dog is on top with all podiums apart from an 8th place in the feature race last week, and that means he is on 94 points. Raya Chan, with a really strong couple of sprint races, he's fast becoming our sprint specialist with a second, first and first, is on 93 points with 2 fastest laps and a pole position as well. He's on 93. Distinct Marco is on 92 with 3 podiums himself, as well as a lowest place finish, 5th. BX Royal, our admin, is and session host, is on 78, followed by BR4 on 57. Mighty Iggy, reigning double champ, only on 48 points after missing round 2. Then comes Owen Williams on 45, Caplero on 44, Mackie's on screen is on 33, and Sick Boy is in 10th position on 21 points. Let's get through the first lap here, going into the Banks corner. On board Mackie's Gherkin's Genesis at the moment. Little off-throttle moment there as we head underneath the shadows multiple times throughout this Sardegna lap, thanks to the windmills all over the circuit. Hopefully the drivers won't find that too distracting. We're deep into the 3rd sector now, and it's 52.8 through the 2nd sector for Mackie's. It's all left-handers to finish off the track. We end up turning about 270 degrees, all said. The final right-hander here is flat out, and we'll see what Mackie's can manage on his first one. First flyer, Mackie's actually seems to dip out of the throttle there for a second. 1:19.3, Viking Dog, 1:18.7. Lars crosses the line into 3rd position. Marco's in the pits. Iggy goes 2nd, a bit more like the Iggy of old. He seems to have been missing for a couple of rounds here. Zerbo goes 6th. We have CMP about to clear his first lap. So it's looking good for Team Genesis at the moment. CMP goes 10th with an initial time there. We've got a new driver driving with us today, CJ. He has no practice whatsoever, so we're told. So he's just going to bring the car in nice and steady. And we'll join Marco as well, who has been very quick. Raya Chan has had a big off-track moment at the moment on the track right now. So our Constructors' Championships Mazda lead on 138 from Renault on 107. McLaren have 98. Ferrari 83. Genesis 81. Lamborghini on 70. Peugeot on 63. Followed by Jaguar on 32. And Mercedes at the back on just 4 points, but only represented by 1 part-time driver so far. But I think we will have CJ will take into the car. BR4 says he's not racing today. He's got some arm pain. Oh dear, that's not cool. But he's predicting a Marco win. Well, it's great to have you with us. But Marco is on the hard tyres, he said. Well, he's on softs right now, Marco, as we're riding on board, so maybe that's the feature race prediction. Hard tyres have been pretty difficult to use here at Aero League Racing. So the second time laps are coming in. Viking Dog has gone fastest. Complero has gone second. Marco can't get himself to all-Italian 1-2-3, as we have seen a couple of times already this season. BX Royal is in fourth position at the moment on a 1:18.5, but it's Viking Dog at the top. Let's see how Iggy's doing in the Genesis. Drivers did really have to organise their car selections way in advance of the latest balance of power adjustments, so they went in a little bit blind. I feel like this rear view mirror is great in the centre of the dash, except for the fact that when you're turning, you completely block it with your hand. So there you go. Iggy, as usual, is on soft tyres. Viking Dog has done one flyer and gone back in, as we saw last week. Iggy, though, will he improve on this one? He does improve, just half a second away from Viking Dog's time now, and puts it into third, but Complero beats him immediately. And Complero, in the Mazda, in the championship leading Mazda, manages a very good second place, again, just 4/10 away. Who's next to come across? Well, not BX Royal. Let's see, as the times come in, Sick Boy will be trying to get this one higher up the grid than 7th. We do use reverse grids for the feature race after qualifying, after the finishing positions of the sprint race, so all is not lost if you have a poor sprint race, and of course if you have a very good sprint race, you've got all the work to do in the feature. It works out pretty well though. Overall, Ryan Chan set a new record for himself, I think. Is that just a sector time? Let's see, Ryan Chan. That would just be a sector time. So he's got one more right-hander, then he will cross the timing beam. Now that was very back and forth on the steering wheel. That's a personal best though, and the clouds are very dark here at Sardegna. We may see some issue, and that's as best as an example of a tank slapper as you're ever likely to see on board Ryan Chan. Unfortunately, the back end trying its damnedest to swap around, but he saved it. I don't think that's going to mean a good lap here though. Complero and Iggy have gone into the pits. Ryan Chan goes in as well, so we'll be looking for those last few runs before the 10-minute qualifying period is up. Obviously, we are 7 minutes and just under 7.5 minutes through that 10 minutes, so time is ticking down. There is just about time to get the car turned around in the pits and back out again. Now, Ryan Chan's put mediums on, has he? We have softs on Zerbo on board at the moment. BR4 says CJ has forgotten to buy mediums and softs. Well, hopefully he won't get disqualified for not using the full range of tyre. He's managed to that's CMP. He's managed to put softs on the CJ right now, so he might have softs and hards at least. So he may have to run a one-stopper and use the ill-favoured hard tyres through the race. How is Viking Dog doing then? Is he actually on a hot lap right now? This is fiendishly difficult to tell. I think. Let's see. It's over the final apex curb. Building the speed to the line. 17, 18, 19. That's a 19.6. So that is a pretty quick lap for him. Marco crosses the line and starts a new lap just behind Viking Dog, so we'll have a good reference point there. No, he's not just behind Viking Dog, I think he's behind Mackey's at the moment on track. So let's watch and see if Marco can trouble the podium or have a good first sector at very least. Lots of very favourable banking and camber turns here at Sardegna. Mackey's going to get out of the way here. That's just 0.131 slower, so he's within range of having a go here. They're gapped down to just under 0.3 of a second, so you can find a 10th over the course of 2 sectors for sure. see BR4 tuning in, even though he can't race. He crosses the line. For the timing being, that's a 3/10 deficit. It's not going to happen for Marco. Didn't get an update on Caplero's time. How's Iggy doing? Oh, we won't get an update on him as well either. So let's ride with Iggy. Keep an eye on Viking Dog, Marco and Caplero's times on the chart on the left, on the tower. How are they changing? Iggy, any improvement, or does he stay fourth? He stays fourth. BX Royal, again, just crossed the line, just on the 10-minute mark, just under. So he will be able to finish this lap out, as will everybody in front. So a warm-up lap, I think, for the 5 front runners. Marco's set a new personal best, it seems, but it wasn't enough to take pole position. The other times coming in now, and these will be the final times. This is Lars, who stays 10th. This is Raya-chan. Unusual for Raya-chan to see him down in 9th place for the start of a sprint race, unfortunately. CJ is a little way off the pace, but he's still learning the track, so he tells us. Here is Viking Dog with a purple middle sector. There's not much in it. I don't think he's quite as leery as it looks on screen. On board with him. I think it's possibly a little bit of lag, one end of the server or another. Moosh has turned up, so he will be able to race, but from the back of the sprint. Here comes Viking Dog then. Any improvement this time round? It is not an improvement for him. Marco sprints for the line. I think that's Caplero up ahead of Marco. And Iggy goes third. Iggy goes third and gets himself onto the second row, at the head of the second row there. So a third place for Iggy. BX Royal. Will he move forward? No, he won't. So no one really making an improvement on the second push lap after the pit stops. There is the green and white Jaguar. And that is how things finished for qualifying. We have Viking Dog on top from Marco, from Iggy, Caplero and BX Royal, Mackies, Sick Boy and Zerbo, your top 8. 1:18.587 was the qualifying time, followed by Raya-chan, Lars, CMP and newcomer CJ at the back, starting in the Mercedes. So that is how our grid will start the race for us, and we will be there very shortly, as usual, as the race will count down and get underway. In fact, why don't we just look at those times for now? I would fully imagine everyone is on softs here for the sprint. And it is usually a job to just finish the sprint race on the soft tyres. It's usually somewhat difficult, but not worth taking the mediums. Here we go then. Everything being prepared for our race, and we will be in action very shortly. In the pit lane at the moment. Mac is saying what's going on. I'm not quite sure, Mackies, unfortunately. Hopefully we will get everything going very soon. It gives me a moment at least to get the screen organised. I think it is worth having the car information on the screen so that we can tell tyres and things like that. Well, I suppose tyres are up at the top, but we can look at tyre wear. I don't want to clutter the screen up too much, but it's a pretty strong wind, strong westerly wind here. So that is going to affect the cars. A big crosswind down the main straight, but particularly tailwind breaking into the hairpin. We've got and then headwind breaking into the corner just before the third timing sector, the second timing sector I should say, on the timing beam. So hopefully the race will be underway for us shortly. I think we're just possibly waiting on Moosh. Mackie's asking about tyres. Let's go through and look at tyres. I think that everyone will be starting on soft tyres. I wonder, whether Moosh decides to roll the dice, but some of these drivers are on different tyres. They should all start on the qualifying tyre. Aero on mediums, CJ on hard tyres for a sprint is only presumably makes sense if he doesn't indeed have soft tyres or he only had qualifying tyres. But everybody else, apart from maybe Raya Chan, has gone for the softs. Aero apparently on mediums. I'm not sure how much I believe all this yet, though. Let's wait and see. BX tells us we are starting soon. The grids are set, and we're going to be underway for a standing start sprint race of 15 minutes, followed then by a reverse grid rolling start 40-minute feature, as is the way here at Aero League Racing's season rules. Been a very entertaining season so far. The previous round was entertaining, if perhaps lacking a little bit in amicable driving, and there were an awful lot of steward decisions. I think only 2 incidents resulted in penalties post-race, but that was a little bit of a shambles at the end of the race last time. Especially the feature was particularly difficult to tell exactly what everyone was up to. I'm just going to try and find those steward results. Here we go. Oh, there isn't time to go through the steward results, so if there's a quiet moment in the race I will find time. So it's Viking Dog in the Mazda on the outside entry into right of screen there. On the left is the distinct colour scheme of Marco's McLaren, followed by Iggy in the red Genesis and Aero in the sister Mazda. It's 5 lights on, it's time to go racing, it's drop the clutch and go, go, go. Viking Dog, a good reaction. Marco slotting across, but it's a very, very strong move forward from the Ferrari of BX Royal, who's gone right up to be alongside the front row starting cars. That is Iggy trying to find some space. The second Mazda having a spin, that is spinning back down the order, but very strong from BX Royal at the start. Marco managed to salvage the entry into turn 1 and keep that one running, and Viking Dog stays where he started on pole position. Iggy was muscular going into the first corner, and he had the Mazda that spun on the inside. I don't think the contact that resulted in the Mazda spinning was Iggy's fault. I'm not saying Iggy was entirely blameless for all forms of contact, but as they attack the second sector, it's Viking Dog, Marco, Iggy and Royal, Mackey's, Sick Boy, Lars and Zerbo. I like the fact that the BX Royal has changed the livery on that Ferrari. I wasn't a fan of the sort of mint green on the Ferrari before. Sick Boy is driving that. No, Sick Boy's in the Jaguar. I had a feeling that the Ferrari is still in the old livery, but all the same, there is Zerbo in the distinctive Peugeot up ahead, but at the head of the field it is Viking Dog, Marco, as they go through. That was a very quick first lap, and it is Iggy in third position, looking to try and secure some good championship points and get his championship bid back on target after winning the previous 2 seasons. But the level has risen. I think everyone would agree that the pace level has risen this season from season 8, and Iggy is taking a little bit of time to come good through this season. At the moment, some adjustments to make, and missing round 2 was definitely not on the favourable cards for a successful title defence. Viking Dog, Marco, Iggy and Royal right behind Iggy. Soft tyres in the top 4 at least. Let's go through as Mackey's is in 5th, Sick Boy is in 6th. Then we've got Zerbo in the Peugeot. A very wild moment from Lars, and it looks like a slightly culpable looking Lamborghini Huracan. CJ on the soft tyres for Mercedes has managed to get up some places by avoiding trouble. it seems. Rayachan unusually low here in this sprint race. Maybe he's feeling like he's got better feature race pace rather than qualifying pace. But at the moment, down in 9th position, very unusual to see. But he is on the medium tyres, so they may come good later. And the Renault is generally a little kinder on its tyres than everybody else. So it could be that many other people have miscalculated this. So soft tyres for the rest of the field, as far as I can tell, and it's just Rayachan who's on the medium tyres. Viking Dog has a fastest lap straight away and a fastest next sector as well. And the front three are very much spreading out here. Over a second between them all. Mackies has a fairly close Sick Boy behind in the Jaguar, followed by Iggy down in 6th. Now, what happened to Iggy? I thought that was Iggy in the Genesis, but Iggy's clearly had a problem on the previous couple of sectors and has dropped down to 6th place. So Zerbo hot on Iggy's tail now. Iggy's got the green wing mirrors on the Genesis versus Mackies, who I think is red or black. Sort of I think that's red, or is that pink? Well, it's definitely not green anyway. So as they go through, 1, 2, 3, it's Viking Dog, Marco with BX Royal at the start of lap 4. That was a personal best for Marco. Viking Dog still has that fastest lap so far. There's a penalty on the car for BX Royal in the Ferrari. That's just off throttle for half a second at the yellow markers. Won't affect him too seriously, but will affect his momentum down the back straight, down the long straight I should say. The wind staying fairly even. Maybe it may have turned to the north by a few degrees, but it was roughly where it still is. Flash of the headlights from Sick Boy, or just the sunlight glinting off them, I wonder. Iggy getting back onto race pace and starting to chase down Sick Boy at the moment. But this combination of this current season and this current selected car, the Genesis, for Iggy, which doesn't seem to be working quite as well as we are used to seeing from him. This is Rayachan versus CJ. Rayachan goes down the inside. There's a fair amount of lag on the cars and looked like a little bit of contact. I think Rayachan might have just dipped out of the throttle there so that he didn't fall foul of any steward decisions. Viking Dog did receive a penalty post-race from last week, so may need to just be a little bit more careful on the racetrack. Catch you up then, it was 5-second penalty for let's talk about that in between the races, shall we? Rayachan in 9th, hot on the heels of CJ still, but a big gap has opened up between Zerbo 7th and CJ in 8th. Got a closer race at the front yet. Marco has managed to drop that gap to the leader down to under a second. It's almost 3/4 of a second now, and there are those yellow marker boards where BX will take his penalty, or has taken his penalty at least. So off throttle for half a second right at the start of the straight will affect his momentum all the way down to turn 1. Braking on the off the race circuit, at least on half on the curbs here from our drivers. Here we go, Rayachan versus CJ again. Rayachan is braking on the inside, CJ hanging it out on the outside. Strong track positioning so far. And it looks like Rayachan has just got the tail ahead and up to 8th position now. This is Complero actually defending from Lars at the moment. Complero and Lars on the soft tyres, and then Moosh in the Lamborghini, who may have been a bit mixed up earlier on with one of our cars that was off circuit. CMP and the sister Ferrari has changed the livery too. And CMP is down 13th position and last at the moment. Maybe a little bit of sandbagging going on between those drivers to try and get the feature race pole. Hopping over the dirt through the final corner. Go both Viking Dog and Marco. And that was a good strong lap from Viking. Doesn't look like BX Royal has got the pace to live with the front two. We're going to make this a battle. A two-horse race here in our sprint. We need to start managing those tyres. We are nearly 8.5 minutes into our 15-minute race. So plenty of wear has already taken place. Marco looks pretty good on these tyres. Limited to the rear right, it seems. Which makes sense. Lots of left-hand turns here in this Catalonia-like or croissant-like shape. A big fight going on here for Sick Boy with Iggy chasing. Iggy's going to try and slip one down the inside, but the next turn is a right-hander. So Sick Boy, big lock-up from Iggy's looking for the switchback. Sick Boy has the right track position here for a sequence of consecutive left-handers. Iggy will do well to beat him through that section. Let's see Iggy then on board as he comes through the final two corners. Be looking for a good run here. I'm not sure he quite got it yet. You think he did? Here he goes. But again, Sick Boy defends to the inside of the next corner. So who is going to claim this one? It is Sick Boy, who still has more than half the car length ahead as they enter the corner, and that was really good racecraft from Sick Boy. It was well positioned from Iggy to not cause contact too. So far, Iggy cannot seem to find a way through. If you're just joining us, welcome. This is the sprint race of our two races here consecutively tonight around the Sardegna Road B circuit for our top tier of racing. Viking Dog leads, but oh, that was Sick Boy, who has defended so well, made a mistake, hit that tricky wall that really juts out, and that looks to be a very, very smoky rear tyre. I think he might have rescued it, but he's got no grip, they're overheated, and that's going to cause all manner of problems. So pressure being applied by Iggy. I don't think contact was applied this time round, and unfortunately looks like it was Sick Boy who made that error. There is a really nasty wall that sticks out onto the racetrack, and if you're battling side by side and your attention is taken by looking in your mirrors, that is definitely an occupational hazard for him. It's not worked out well, but Iggy up to 5th position, although he has been as high as 3rd earlier on in the race. Coming on through then, Ryan starting to gap CJ. Ryan, the only car on the medium tyres in this sprint race, so he may come good later on, but at the moment Ryan 21 seconds away from the lead. That is CJ going a little bit wide onto the gravel. That brings Caplero right into play, and with the momentum and track positioning, Caplero down the inside through turn 3 and makes the move up to 9th. CMP is in 12th and Moosh is in 13th. At the front though, continues to be under a second. So Marco not letting Viking get away with this at all, but they are pretty much in a race of their own, these two. You can barely see BX Royal coming from behind there in the background. So these two have been very quick here tonight. With a big mistake, unfortunately dropping down by 5 seconds. Such is their dominance though that BX Royal has not been able to catch them. It's Viking Dog up ahead with the race pretty much his now, with just under 2.5 minutes to run. Viking Dog has a 6-second lead. It's not all over, but it is all over by the shouting here for Viking Dog. A lot of work to do on those front right tyre, however, and it does look like Marco is struggling on the right hand side of his car to keep it running. BX Royal might have been managing his pace, but he's not been managing his tyre wear very well at all. Just under 2 minutes to run, and that's a fair amount of time for the drivers on the soft tyres. That's all of our racers apart from Rayachan in 8th position. This could be similar to a Formula E race at the end, where everyone is going incredibly slowly apart from one or two. Iggy has also not been able to manage the tyres, even on that Genesis. Usually has a bit of a tyre wear advantage over the majority of the field. Everyone really struggling here, but see how notably better Rayachan's pace is. In fact, that was a personal best time for Rayachan as well. So picking up the pace here as the rubber wears off his medium tyres. 21.9 seconds Rayachan is behind the leader at the moment, with just 1 minute to go before the final lap will be triggered. Oh, got a car around. Is that Moosh? It is Moosh in the Lamborghini at the exit of the final corner. No tyres left really on the rear right of the Lamborghini. So Viking Dog, I don't think he's got time here to slow the race down so that he can finish on the current lap. I think he's going to have to trigger one more lap for himself and the rest of the field. Ironically, it might even be that Rayachan will pick up the checkered flag. There we go. Final lap for Viking. Could be that Rayachan will have one fewer laps here to really exploit the speed in his tyre. Where is he? It's a matter of 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Has he managed to cross the line? He has just crossed the line in time as we tick over into that 15-minute mark. So he's only just been able to get there. Viking Dog is going slowly, but most of the rest of the field are doing the same. Marco is catching Viking Dog, but by nowhere near enough here. He has got more tyres remaining to him. More tyre life, at least, remaining to him. Let's have a quick check on Rayachan. He's not catching the leader. So the leader is in the final sector of the sprint race. Just got to get this front right home now. And it's difficult, and he's understeering. I think he's going to do it. One more left, one more right. And Viking Dog will take a very strong win here at Sardegna. Road B wins the sprint race. Viking Dog from Marco, who crosses the line now to take second. BX Royal with a very strong performance for Ferrari in third, and Mackey's likewise in the Genesis, scoring big here. Zerbo in the Peugeot takes fifth. Sick Boy will finish ahead of Iggy, who has had a difficult sprint race. Rayachan came in 8th. Caplero 9th, CJ 10th, Lars, CMP and Moosh are your finishing order. So it was very strong race there. Mistake-free race for Viking Dog. Pole position, clean race. He'll take that any day of the week. Worked out very, very well for him. And there are your finishing results. So just to finish that thought about earlier on from the previous race, it was a 10-second penalty for Mackey's for contact with Moosh and a single penalty point given after the previous round. It was a 5-second penalty and 1 penalty point for Viking Dog with contact with BR4, which was commuted down from a 10-second penalty because Viking waited for BR4 to go through, although it caused further issues, unfortunately. And those were the only decisions that we had at the end of the race. Now, this is the finishing order. Viking Dog, Marco, Royal, Mackey's, Zerbo, Sick Boy, Iggy and Raya-chan, followed by Caplero, CJ, Lars, CMP and Moosh. And comms will just go quiet for a few moments while the host reorganises our feature race, and there's not a lot to talk about in between races, and then the commentary will return just prior to the start of the feature race. So we'll see you in a minute. Back then with Webbo here for commentary of our feature race. We've got a lot of chatter going on in the driver room. A little bit of niggle happening between Ryan and Lars. Lars reminding Ryan to watch the racing etiquette video. A lot of self-recriminations going on as well for the likes of Marco, for Iggy, for Mackey's. Mackey's claiming that they both hit the wall of death. Sorry, Sick Boy saying that he and Iggy both hit the wall of death. The sticky out bit there that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, lots of chatter going on, lots of reaction to that sprint race, and some scores to settle in the feature race to come. And we're about to get underway. Remember, this is oh dear, this should be a reverse grid race. I didn't think Aero finished last. We may have a problem there. I don't know if there'll be a panic, but they're under rolling start order anyway, so regardless, looks like Aero has been a little bit fortunate there, but he will take them away from the start. Oh no, we're just all over the shop with our race order, aren't we? Oh, dear me. Okay. Right, so it is Moosh who has led them away. Aero's transponder is just figuring very wrong. That is Moosh at the front with CMP just behind, Lars in third, and CJ in fourth position. There is truly Aero, who has organised, got a bit better organised, and has got down the inside of CJ. I don't think he's enough ahead, and CJ has shown some very good track positioning already at this race, and his debut with us here at Aero League Racing, so clearly a driver with quality. There was Aero getting through. This is Ryan under attack from Iggy. The next one is going to be a right-hander, but Iggy's flying and managed to get ahead here. Very, very early pace there from Iggy. Ryan has gone for the hard tyres. Iggy for the medium, and Sick Boy also on the mediums. Most drivers will start mediums, but I tend to think that the hards are a good tyre to start on when you're fat with fuel, and then you can really exploit the pace difference of the softer compound on low fuel. CJ is getting crowded out here. Car's very, very keen to get past him, and it's Sick Boy versus Iggy. Harking back to season 7 here. Sick Boy, hits the rear quarter of Iggy as they fight for position. I'm pretty sure that there's a fair amount of lag going on at the moment, because neither driver generally drive like that. CJ is holding off Ryan at the moment, who might have a better race car underneath him for the feature, but he's being passed here by BX Royal, who's going through the field nicely. Those clouds still looking very threatening, so it could be that best laid strategic plans. Ryan running out of brakes, going into the right-hander hairpin. There's a lot of low grip moments happening on the circuit at the moment. The track has cooled, the wind is up, and it does look like the clouds are looking very threatening. Mackey's down in 12th, Zerbo in 13th with problems at the start, but CMP will lead at the moment, having overtaken Moosh, who now has a half-second penalty to pay, as well as they close out lap 2. That's not going to help the Huracan either on its tyre wear or its penalty. Looks like lights flashing once again, so Lars blasts through past Moosh but straight onto the grass. So he's going to suffer a loss of momentum all the way down. Aero doing brilliant though in the Mazda, is moving up very, very quickly. He didn't start pole, it just said he was started in pole, and across then into overtake into second place then for Aero after problems, a penalty to pay for Moosh, and Lars exploring the scenery on the previous on the last time through the final corner. Iggy puts himself on the outside once again, goes for that switchback, and that is beautifully timed from Iggy, although a little bit of understeer and a possible touch of contact between himself and the Jaguar, but Iggy goes through. Lars deposed to 5th, Lars not in the best of moods after disagreeing with Ryan over track behaviour. BX Royal moving through nicely, but Viking Dog right with him. And here comes your sprint race and championship winner and leader so far is Viking Dog in 8th position, looking for that way through past BX Royal. It's medium tyres on the majority of the field. CJ went for hards, as did Rayachan, and well, Zerbo is stuck behind them all. But so far, not working out for the hard runners. CJ and Rayachan 11th and 12th. But CMP tried to make the most of that pole position on the soft tyres. That could push him to a 2-stopper. This time will tell. So down they go then. CMP, Caplero, Moosh, Iggy, Sick Boy, Lars, also on the soft tyres, Lars. And that was Viking Dog. Was that passing BX? It was. And Marco goes through. BX was off on the gravel. I don't know if he fell or was pushed, but that's where we found him. At least it's brightening up a little bit. It might just be brightening up a little bit for our racers here. Perhaps the threat of rain is diminishing. Very tight racing at the moment. Is at the start of these races. This is super close then. This is what have we got? Iggy in 3rd, holding off Moosh and Sick Boy. And the 2nd Jaguar is being crowded out by Viking Dog at the moment. Iggy looks a little bit vulnerable down the main straight here. The only real straight, I should say. Moosh have a go. Moosh is on the mediums, just like Iggy, just like the majority of the field. Lars uses the inside line to defend from Viking Dog. He's got good grip at the moment on the softs, but we know they're only good for 15 minutes, maybe 14 minutes really. Viking Dog on the outside. Now, does this mean that Marco decides to sneak one up the inside as Viking off on the grass? Surely Marco's got the pace to go through here. Viking Dog claims the apex. Marco taking this pretty calmly, but doesn't want to finish behind Viking Dog again, or to fall off the racetrack in the final stages either. Viking is, well, he's seemingly all over the road, but I think that, again, we're looking at a little bit of lag here. And it is a fairly consistent issue across the lobby. So you guys can talk about it after you've watched the race. The drivers can talk about it after they've watched the race, but I'm starting to wonder, you know, whether we have a host connection problem. For one reason or another, that's not to blame the internet. It can just be the server connection for that particular host, but it seems that would definitely contribute to unusual movement around the track and more incidents and accidents as Viking Dog looks to split the difference here for 5th position. Tries to find his way around here, and that was Moosh getting into the back of Marco, who held firm. Sorry, yes, it was Moosh, who's now dropping down. So Marco got through there very nicely. He's right with Lars. They are trading places one after the other. Looks like Marco got hung out on the outside of the banked corner on the right. Now it is the right hand hairpin, and he loses out to Viking once again. Marco does seem the smoothest and calmest on the racetrack at the moment, does Marco. Everyone else looking a little bit wayward, and there goes Lars. Exit stage left into the gravel for Lars, and this is obviously helping the rest of the drivers move forward. So Lars rejoins down in 9th, but couldn't hold off, couldn't run at that pace and be on the racing line reliably. Viking Dog and Marco, after finishing 1st and 2nd in the sprint, and now 5th and 6th, and it's only lap 6. Medium tyres running well, quarter of a tank of fuel used, 8 minutes deep into the race. Let's go see how our leaders are doing, shall we? CMP on the soft tyres has a great lead over Caplero, but Iggy has caught Caplero now. So this one should be very interesting. Aero, trying to run with our reigning double champ, Iggy. Iggy's still looking good, but they're slowing each other down now. Kick of the left rear onto the gravel for Iggy. A little bit wayward as he tries to find a way through the Pleuro's Mazda. This is the championship leading car at the moment, the Mazda RX Vision. Through to finish off their 6th lap, the start of lap 7. Sorry, start of lap 8 for these guys now. There's CMP's tyres. Well, he's 5.2 seconds in the lead, so the second two in the podium are not running too much slower while they're fighting with each other. The soft tyre of, CMP. So obviously they're going to be in a better position to run their strategy as long as there are no weather interruptions. It's right on board with Iggy. Plenty of blue sky around, facing north, facing east. What about when we start to turn to the south, as that's where the weather will roll in from. The wind has rotated to almost due north now. So let's check out that, the look of the sky. BR4 saying it can't rain here, okay. Well, it certainly can be very windy, but good info, thanks for that, BR4. You can't even see the sky for the mountains right now either, so there you go. Great inside knowledge there. CMP leads, Caplero and Iggy. Sick Boy just behind, well, was just behind, but now Viking Dog has got past Sick Boy into 4th place on the medium tyres. Marco trying to follow Viking through, not able to quite run at the same pace and the same decisive overtaking manoeuvres. That was Sick Boy having a problem coming out of the corner. So often we're seeing drivers just put a wheel out in the dirt. It is a punishing racetrack for that. Ran side by side for a moment. And Marco then looking for a way through, not finding it just yet. But again, another mistake from a Jaguar. And Sick Boy puts himself on the outside, becomes the inside for the next corner. Marco will try to find a way through here. It's not easy. Oh, and that was Sick Boy losing the car slightly. Marco put out onto the dirt. He'll have to reset and go again. Don't think he'll enjoy that, but it is the danger of putting yourself on the outside of one of your rivals that could lose adhesion. CMP has gone into the pits after just 12 minutes of running on the soft tyre. Fat with fuel, that meant accelerated tyre wear relative to the sprint race for some reason, but they would have started on the same amount of fuel in the sprint, so clearly didn't get as much out of the tyre as he was hoping. Rolling through the field. Zerbo's in 9th, Riot Chan is in 10th. Running those hard tyres and not able to really run at a great pace. It's very, very consistent pace, mid to late 121s, but not showing the lap highlights of many of the other drivers. You can see that the lap times here from the leader, Caplero, in the 120s. Very close to the 119s on the previous lap, but Caplero leads from Iggy now. Viking Dog has got himself up to 3rd position. His laps have been good. He has dipped into the 119s at one point so far, and he has, well, CMP has the fastest lap thanks to being able to use the soft tyres from the start. Helped him really exploit those tyres being at the head of the field on a rolling start. If you're all the way up there, in the pole position on a rolling start. You can really roll the dice when it comes to using those soft tyres early. Aero, Iggy Viking, Sick Boy, Marco, Mackey's top 6 at the moment. Marco hasn't been able to find a way past Sick Boy just yet. Got a personal best time from Marco. Might mean that he's starting to improve the pace and bring himself into better position. That's that wall of death. The red and white tyre barrier cover. Marco goes for it, and now that almost looked like Sick Boy let him through. Decided perhaps that he was losing too much time fighting and holding off Marco, who was going to ultimately not be able to race on race pace alone. Marco put a wheel off onto the dirt there, unaccustomed to having an unsighted view to the next few corners. His gap to Viking Dog now 4.2 seconds at the moment, and it is closing up at the front here. This is Aero and Viking Dog with a Iggy sandwich in the middle. Red Genesis trying to look for a way through in front, but certainly wary of the tensions from behind as well. He puts through a good sector that time. Mediums really in the sweet spot, certainly on the left of the car. On the right of the car, probably not so much. We're 15 and a half deep. Drivers will want to get themselves through and close to half distance before switching tyres to the hards. Just really use everything the mediums have got to offer. Big slide from Iggy, I think, but it could have just been lag. Behind them we just saw a few movements as Marco brings that gap down to Viking Dog, who is running at Iggy's pace at the moment. Viking Dog leery on the curbs through the final 2 corners. Does anyone decide that they're losing time and it's better for an earlier pit stop here? Not so much here so far, as they go through to start lap 13. No further pit stops. You won't see one from Rayachan for a long time, but ultimately he's going to be paying the price for running those hard tyres for a long stint in the race. He's going to have to get past half distance, I think, to make the mediums work for him. You wonder whether many drivers will have to take a 2-stop. That was the talk in the driver chat. Some saying that their learnings from that sprint race meant that they were going to be vulnerable and struggling to make a 1-stop work here and avoid the hard tyre. Riding on board then with Viking Dog. Doesn't look super aggressive at the moment on the back of Iggy. Going to finish another lap. It's lap 13 done. 17 and a half minutes in. At a much slower pace now than he has run earlier. 1:19.7 his fastest lap. BX Royal with a 1:18.9 so far. The fastest driver on the circuit in the conditions we've seen so far anyway. Still piling on the pressure, but Marco has brought that gap down now to 2.4 seconds to Viking. Still got to fancy the Mazdas and possibly Marco to feature on the podium come the end of the race. Marco lost a lot of time battling with Sick Boy, but ultimately looks like he's going to be able to bring himself into contention for this podium. Iggy hanging on at the moment, it looks like. really hanging on to the Genesis. Tyre wear looking pretty strong on the right of the car. Marco just playing this pretty calm. Could just be that he has less lag than most, but his car does look pretty planted, and he's driving within himself. He's not over pushing the car. Mackey's in the second Genesis is going for a move on Sick Boy's Jaguar further back. Let's cut back then to our podium battle. No one with a definite pace advantage. I think that in clear air, Viking Dog would be away here, as he was in the feature in the sprint race. Got to think we're getting to that point now where a pit stop would make sense if they're one stopping for hard tyres after starting on the mediums, especially for the likes of Viking Dog, who just can't seem to find a way through past Iggy. For me, it's do the opposite now to what Iggy is doing, because I don't think that you're going to keep running at this pace on the mediums for another lap. Definitely not for another 2. Oh, over on the dirt again from Viking Dog, but they all go past the pit lane. They want that extra hot lap on the mediums before going for hards. Mackey's is switched. He's into the pits, and we'll see what he decides to do. So it was the halfway point in our race that Mackey's decided to go for it. Viking Dog again, to just do something different, distract Iggy. It's alongside slightly from axle to rear axle overlap. Iggy planting the car nicely in the middle of the racetrack. Predictable, calm manoeuvres so far. No wild swings, no adjustments in the braking zone there. Again, you see him just using the middle of the racetrack, and Viking Dog being made to go a long way around the outside. He's done a slight cut back here, but Iggy will be turning left, as they all will. Successive corners at the end of the circuit, so placing the car very, very well. And Marco is right on the back of Viking, who gets up the inside, going into the penultimate corner. Marco tries to follow him through, the old touring car trick. Possibly a little touch there as Iggy tried to rejoin after being offline, but they both clear Iggy at the end of their lap 16. And up to second and third then are your sprint race winner and second placing Viking Dog and Marco. We're not even 2/3 distance, and they've already moved up right from the tail of the field. Iggy picked up a penalty in that off-track excursion, so he's picked up a half-second off-throttle penalty. He's not going to be happy about that. He may feel aggrieved coming out of that final corner. I feel like he was off track though, and that's the kind of the risk you take as you rejoin. I've only seen it once though, so if you're watching live, you can rewind the stream and tell me whether you agree or not with either his penalty or the fact that Marco got through. Following a little touch, the wind has died down and switched to the west again. That is Viking Dog well off on the dirt, but he didn't seem to lose a lot of speed. So again, it might just be a bit of lag, wrongly positioning the car from our perspective as spectators. And Marco is tucked up very neatly here in the slipstream. Viking takes the inside. Marco will look to switch back or go all the way around the outside. Was that an overtake around the outside? Yes, it was. Tremendous from Marco, but he's offline into the next corner. Oh, he gives it up, and that was so close. I was fully expecting to see a switch back, and it never came because he actually got the overlap. Fortunately for him, he was offline into turn 3. Still no pit stops, although Marco less in need than Viking, who has actually gone through his fuel as well. So Viking is on the red, on the fuel. So is his teammate Aero. Looks like that Mazda just a little thirstier than the McLaren. He hasn't done them any harm though through the season so far. The Mazda with a good lead in the constructors. Oh, big moment there for Viking Dog, at least from our view anyway. Definitely struggling on the right hand side of the car. Will he peel to the right hand side now? I think he will. This is the pit stop. This is the pit stop for Viking, but Marco pits at the same time. So does Iggy. Sick Boy in too. It is pit stop o'clock. This is Raya-chan, who should be able to get past everybody on the hard tyre. No, is he going for the mediums? He is going in at this point as well for the mediums to the end, so he'll have good tyres at the end of the race. Will Raya-chan, BX Royal, takes the lead of the race on lap 19. CMP likewise, the two Ferraris out front. CMP used the softs, he's back on the mediums, but he didn't put enough fuel in the car, it seems, CMP, to really use the tyres to great effect. So it looks like he's going to have to two-stop thanks to that fuel miscalculation. You fancy he ought to have put a lot more fuel in the car for this stint, unless he was going to double soft stint at the start of the race. So Aero out. He's gone for soft tyres with just 15 minutes to go on the tyre. So they really did eke that one out to perfection. They've all gone to softs, all our podium contenders. Aero, Marco and Viking, but Marco got ahead of Viking Dog in the pits. Looks like he just didn't have to put quite as much fuel on. As we saw, the Mazdas were thirstier, so it's just that second or two fewer in the pit stop has allowed Marco to make the jump. Now they're all on equal terms to the end of the race, though the McLaren was a stronger contender on the tyre wear. So let's see if Marco can do what he did in the first stint and manage to keep a lot more tyre grip at the end of his second stint, and he's trying to win this one. He wouldn't want to follow another Mazda home, but it would give him a small amount of satisfaction to beat Viking. CMP did pit again, so he is just coming out with soft tyres. Maybe that was just deliberate calculation. Don't want to underestimate our racers here. He's come out to maximise the use of the soft tyre. He could have bought himself a lap or two extra and been able to go really, really aggressive on the tyres at the end. That's what he fancies at the moment. Aero, net lead of the race. BX Royal is in the lead, but will pit again. Well, will pit again almost immediately, I think. In he comes to the right-hand side of the track, into the pit lane. So he'll be looking for a new set of tyres. He needs to fill up because he's got 1% of fuel left. The drivers have done plenty of practice. They know how much fuel they need for these remaining laps of the race. Just 12.5 minutes to go. Aero, Marco, Viking, top three. Then Iggy in fourth, Sick Boy and Mackey's fifth and sixth. As Sick Boy goes for it, Mackey's goes for it, gets rear-ended from Sick Boy, but holds on to the position. So Mackey's makes the overtake into fifth position. Sick Boy down to sixth. Lars in the second Jaguar down to seventh now. Raya-chan has put the soft tyres on, so he went hard to soft. We'll see what kind of pace our sprint race specialist has got, with a sprint race left of this feature, and on his soft tyres now. Doesn't look like this track is being quite so kind though to Raya-chan as the previous ones have in the championship. Zerbo in 9th, BX Royal 2 stopping to 10th. CMP 2 stopping to 10th. with CJ down at the tail of the field, but that's exactly where he expected to be with no practice whatsoever. Aero starts lap 22 in the lead of the race by just 0.6 of a second from Marco, who himself has only a 0.3 gap behind to Viking Dog. We have a very tasty podium run here in the remaining 11 minutes of our race. Still driving well. That wasn't a flash of headlights, that was a reflection of the sunlight from those inner strakes that are visible in the floor of the McLaren. Viking Dog rides on the tail, just 0.1 of a second behind now. Surely he's going to go for it in a second. He needs to get ahead of Marco because his car will use the tyres more. He got the fastest lap of the race in the previous lap, an 18.3. It's 0.3 faster than himself on the previous lap. So loving these soft tyres early on. To dip out of the throttle there, but then so did Marco ahead. Looks like he's got a KL2 KPHL2 in advantage over Marco. Not quite enough though into turn 1, but he knows that Marco had an issue in the previous race, at the end of the race, running out of focus perhaps, but that one was a mistake from Viking Dog that time. So just easing off the pressure from Marco, who now can apply his own pressure to Aero as the minutes tick by, and I think Marco will be in a good position come the end of the race on that tyre wet if things run as they did in the first stint. Again, our 3 very fast Italians are leading the race, from an Austrian and 2 Brits, our Brazilian Raya-Chan in 7th, and then another Italian, Zerbo, in 8th. Italian driving a French car, the Peugeot. So he's driving. Bunch of dirt and dust for Viking Dog's intakes to deal with there. Another good lap from Viking. Marco running in the late 1:18s. That's a solid pace. Hint of the start of a slide coming through turn 1 on the McLaren. It's right on board Marco, who seems to be the smoothest looking driver out there. Personal best first sector. Looked rough from Aero that time. Big gain for Marco, who is turning the screw now, starting to really show his pace. 0.4 of a second to the car in front. It's a potential feature race win here for Marco. Was solid through the final 2 corners. Should be able to get a bit of a slipstream, although that Mazda is very, very slippery. There he is, gaining. It's just not enough. That straight is only about half a mile long. 2/3 of a kilometre. It is not enough really. A little bit longer, and I think he probably could have had a go under braking. Viking Dog has caught back again, and it is less than a second covering the top 3, as we are just 6 minutes and 3/4 left to run in this race. Oh, a look down the outside maybe, but that was a switchback from Marco, and he's gone for it, but he's run out of road. And now that looks like Viking Dog. Looks like he's thrown away second in a valiant attempt for first position. Wow. BR4 says, we know what happened when the two Mazdas were next to each other before. Absolutely. There's been some ill-advised racing between the Mazda teammates in the previous rounds, but for now, that was Marco who went for a very late move on the brakes, got the overtake, but ran out of road in the end, and allowed Viking through, and he'll be kicking himself. But as a racing driver, he went for it, and it's better to go for it, I think, for your own motivation, than to regret never even trying. But he's now got to make up for that. The eyes of his prestigious Distinct team will be watching, and it is a double-edged sword being with a top team like Distinct, is that you get tremendous team support, but also you get a lot of team eyes on your race performances, and that can affect you. So Viking Dog in second. Caplero, well, it is a little bit early in the championship. It's only round 4 of 8 in the championship to be instigating team orders, but our man Viking Dog is leading this championship. The Mazda team are leading as well in the constructors, as BR4 said, though. No love lost between the two teammates at the moment. If they've managed to bury the hatchet. Marco looking strong here, 0.2 of a second away. This is closer than he was on the previous lap. When he go for a move, going down into turn 1, he will shape to the inside, but Viking Dog will go through past Caplero, and Marco goes to sneak through as well. He can't quite get there, but the next one is a left-hander, and he just can't get sufficiently alongside. He's gone for another late one. There's a touch of sidewall to sidewall, and Marco is through into second position. Viking God didn't do his teammate many favours there, just going for the move as late as he did. You could argue that Caplero could have done himself the favours and allowed his teammate through. But try and take a win off a racing driver. Just see how that one goes down for them in the radio. But Marco then, with just 3.5 minutes to run, Marco is looking at the familiar sight of a Mazda rear wing, and now he's back behind Viking Dog for the potential feature race win here. Fancy, he must go for it. These two should be able to run a little bit quicker than Caplero now. They've been held up a little bit by Caplero, so don't be surprised to see them start to gap. It just depends how much pace each driver has got left, how much tyres each driver has got left for the race. We can see Marco is better on tyre wear again in the McLaren. It's a very handy race car, the McLaren, at the moment in this category, at least. But Viking Dog is stretching and stretching away. They're both stretching away from Caplero. The gap now to 8.5, nearly 9/10 of a second. So back to Viking Dog versus Marco for the win. Can Marco hang on and go for a move and try and make up for what was, in his words, binning it in the sprint race? I've seen much worse crimes committed against race positions than that one. He just lost a bit of time. He's still got that second place. Can he actually make it work? That is Viking Dog again, looking like he's on the dirt, and it looks like Marco has got the overlap, and Marco takes the lead at the end of lap 28 with just 2 minutes to run. That's lap 28 complete. Lap 29 begins. Marco holds firm on the inside. In fact, so firm he's holding that he put a wheel in the dirt as Viking goes for a move on the outside, finds himself with no grip whatsoever. What's going to happen between the Mazdas this time? And just about Caplero playing the team game at the moment and running in the wheel tracks of Viking Dog. He had an opportunity there to go for a move. He didn't quite do it. And as BR4 says, this is not going to end well. Well, it's only going to end one way in terms of Marco's mind anyway. We've got 2 laps to go now, including the one that they're on, I believe. And it is, my full focus is on these cars because this is where the championship is being decided, and the podium. Oh, was that Marco with a very rare sideways moment? I think it might have been. Viking Dog is picking up the pace again, but finding himself with very little rear grip. Another oversteer moment that time. Moosh has retired mid-race and he's leaving an explanation. I'll catch you up with that later in the driver chat. But like I say, for now, focus on the race in front of us. As they cross the line, it will be a matter of 40 seconds to go. So we will be on the final lap of the race for these leaders. Through they go. Marbles obviously evident on the circuit, but Marco looks like he's got the measure of the Mazdas at the moment. Just needs to hold on. He's got better tyre wear, as I've mentioned before, on the McLaren. Let's see if he can hold it. 1 sector done, 2 to go for Marco. Can he get that perfect revenge for following Viking Dog home in the sprint? Can he pick up more points here for the feature race? Of course, this is the main event of proceedings tonight, as Marco has now opened that gap out to a second. Marco looking good. He's through the second sector, just the left-handers and that tiny right-hand kink to go to finish off this race. 2 corners for Marco, and it can't come soon enough for the McLaren driver in that beautiful distinct livery. Marco will win in Sardegna in the feature. Tremendous performance. Viking Dog with a very solid evening's racing. Caplero scoring huge for Mazda once again. Iggy will cross the line in 4th place and doesn't thank the team as he goes across the line. This is Sick Boy going for 5th in the Jaguar. Genesis will score well as well because Mackey's will come home 6th. BX Royal is in 7th position in the Ferrari. Zerbo's Peugeot 8th. Raya-chan in 9th. CMP crosses the line just about now. After starting pole position, ends up 10th. Lars in 11th, and CJ has already crossed the line, having been sufficiently far back. But Marco, brilliant performance tonight, and it was 1 apiece for Marco and Viking Dog. But a really good race, pair of races there. And Marco held on. He was angry at himself for losing the position, for losing time in the sprint, but he got a perfect revenge in the feature. Very impressive race from our drivers. Very exciting towards the end as well. There's your race position confirmed. Viking Dog picks up the fastest lap as well. Moosh said he had a lack of practice. He had to do an extra pit stop, so he couldn't keep the car running, and he just decided that enough was enough. Mackies is calling out Kyle. Of course, I'm not looking at driver names. I'm looking at PSNs, so I don't know who Kyle was. He said, whoever Kyle is, you're an absolute menace. You killed Marco once and killed him twice. But that is your finishing order. Marco, Viking Dog, Caplero, an all-Italian podium again as Iggy, reigning double champ, takes 4th. Sick Boy, Mackies and BX Royal, the Brits in 5th, 6th and 7th, and then another Italian Zerbo in 8th. Over to the tail end of the field, Raya-chan, CMP, Lars, CJ and Moosh. Fantastic race. I'll just wait to hear their distinct saying he got killed twice, once by Kyle. Viking saying so much sweat. And Marco saying he was hit also by Lars earlier on. We did see him go off and Lars go off in front of him. But or was that Sick Boy? That might have been Sick Boy in the other Jaguar. But really good racing from our drivers. A lot cleaner this evening versus last week. Join us next week for round 5 of our 8-round championship. I've been Webbo. This has been Aero League Racing's Tier 1 division of Gran Turismo 7 Racing. But from all of us here on the channel, thank you for watching, and we will catch you on the next race day.